Hi again. In Dwight Wilson, Armageddon Now, page 157, in the chapter From Sinful Alliance to Christian Realism, again dealing with speculation about Antichrist and the rise of the Roman Empire, the re-rise of the Roman Empire in the 1940s and the post-war period. The recurring issue of who would oppose the rise of Russia and the Northern Confederacy had taken some interesting twists during the war and after. Louis S. Bauman in 1940 had continued to see a revived Roman Empire headed up by Mussolini as the outcome of the war. The war was to be a final struggle between democracy and autocracy would win and establish the empire. According to Bauman, most premillenarians saw this as the interpretation of the images iron and clay feet in the vision of Daniel chapter 2. Bauman explained that it was necessary for Mussolini to drop out of the Rome-Berlin-Tokyo axis in order to fulfill the prophecies. The whole subject was quietly dropped as the tide of war turned against Italy. Other premillenarians had better luck with their predictions. In Our Hope magazine, W. Fereday predicted an alliance between Britain and Italy after World War II as part of the anticipated revival of the Roman Empire. And although it did not come about until 1973, when Britain joined the European Economic Community, it could be said that he was not completely wrong. Harry Rimmer, in 1940, forecast a new League of Nations as a result of the war and the rise of a universal dictator. The United Nations has arrived, but there is no dictator yet. Now, this is written around 45 years ago. After the war, Arno C. Gaebelein projected a United Nations of Europe as the embodiment of the revived Roman Empire. The East-West split of Europe foreshadowed for him the outlines of the two confederacies. The formation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, was interpreted to be the alliance of 10 kings in the empire. Harry A. Ironside, with reference to NATO and the United Nations, asserted that, quote, the 10 kingdoms are already in process of organization, unquote. Gaebelein suggested in 1949 a kind of revisionist interpretation of NATO and the Cold War when he said, quote, these defense measures being taken by the nations of the West may be the very thing that will incite Russia to war eventually. In a way, the Atlantic Pact is a step toward a world of peace, but not in the manner that Mr. Truman expects, for it may easily be an instrument in bringing about the aggression on the part of the East, which will precede the coming of the Lord. Actually, then, the Atlantic Pact may be, first of all, the first step toward war. There continued to be occasional speculation as to where the United States fitted into this scheme. In 1940, a discussion on Armageddon by Louis S. Bauman in the Sunday School Times brought forth this covering comment from the editor, Charles G. Trumbell. Quote, it is to be noted carefully that Dr. Bauman does not say that Mussolini is the Antichrist, nor does he say that the activities of the Antichrist have begun in the present European war, nor that Britain will be defeated in the present war, end of quote. But very careful examination will show that those were exactly the things that Bauman was saying. But since this was the 23rd article in the series, Trumbell would have found it inconvenient to reject the article even if he had wished to. Bauman specifically included the allies of Britain in this defeat. But in 1942, after the United States was allied to Britain, Bauman reversed himself and rejoiced that the stars and stripes would float aloft in the millennial kingdom. He said, quote, if our interpretation is correct, then thank God for this divine assurance that Great Britain and her young cubs, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and America, will be found protesting to the very end of the age against the ravages of this great Bolshevistic colossus of the North and its atheistic allies. End of quote. After the war, Our Hopes, that is, Our Hope magazine's analysis of the East-West split in Europe included the possibility that the revived Roman Empire might include the whole Western Hemisphere. It seemed to Gaebelein that the United States would actually be, quote, the moving and most powerful factor, unquote, in this Western alliance opposing Russia. He did not, however, in 1947, expect war for 8 to 10 years. Evangelist H.E. Fisher, whose Doctor of Theology thesis was The Destiny of Soviet Russia, explained that Russia's invasion of Palestine in support of the Arabs would be opposed by Italy, England, and America, who would support the Jews. This latter union was to be a Catholic confederation which would defeat the Russians, and its great leader would become the first president of a world government. This war presented as the plan without any hedging whatsoever. Another article by Merrill T. MacPherson in Christian Life in 1948 said the empire would undoubtedly include the British dominions in the United States, and that the Iron Curtain was a line placed there by God. To it must be held. No, let's read that again. A line placed there by God, so it must be held. In Gaebelein's system, the Roman Empire, including the United States, would be destroyed by God at the Battle of Armageddon. Russia would be destroyed after the battle. Future prospects were most bluntly expressed by Dan Gilbert in Will Russia Fight America? The question considered in the light of Bible prophecy. Gilbert said, the Red leadership is acting upon the assumption that it can never get into final position to launch the assault on Palestine until American opposition is neutralized. The answer to the question, will Russia fight America, is yes. This is all Dan Gilbert. To which Wilson replies, although all these conflicting schemes may leave one confused, they do not obscure the basic fact that the premillenarians expected, if not welcomed, a fight with Russia. This predisposition was in part an ideological conflict with communistic socialism, but the driving force of the idea stemmed from their interpretation of prophecy. Next time we conclude the chapter, I'll put in a link to Nathaniel West, who 125 or more years ago answered a question that was very much alive in his day when postmillennialism was still the dominant prophetic system among conservative Christians. The question was, who would be on earth during the millennium? And of course, for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and Jehovah's Witnesses, this is the question that they think Christendom has never addressed. The kingdom question. Who's on earth during the millennium? So I'll put Nathaniel West, a précis of Nathaniel West on your screen. That is really a promotion for his wonderful book, his classic book on the millennium. Nathaniel West, who will be on earth for the millennium? See you next time.